It is the Gashouse gang. It's Monday. We talk Cardinals with Kevin Wheeler, Matt Pauley, Bernie Miklasz. I'm Tom Ackerman. Gentlemen, great to see you. Bernie, how was your weekend? Navy with the win over Army. I know that fired you up.
You know, it's the best in my lifetime games that I'm aware of. Like in other words, I saw Roger Staubach playing 63, but I was 4 years old, so that doesn't count. I'm old, yeah, Wheeler. Don't make that face. I'm old.
I was just really happy when you said you were 4. Makes it.
But anyway, in terms of a big game, that was the most impressive performance I've ever seen Navy team play because it's their arch rival. It's the most important game of the season every year, and they just destroyed an Army team that was ranked, and an Army team that won the AAC, and an Army team that was considered much better than Navy this year. I thought they were better, but not much better, but still 31-13. Thank you for letting me prattle on about that, Tommy. Thank you.
Absolutely. Hey, we get to tout our favorite football teams all the time. This has been one of the best sports years of my life. I mean, I don't even know where to even begin. The only problem is the Cardinals aren't good. Gosh darn it. I'm trying to figure out how to get this Cardinals team going again, and we're going to get into it here. Matt Pauley, you're back from the winter meetings last week. We're going to kind of dive into some of the things that we learned and what developed over the weekend. And Kevin Wheeler, let me actually start with you. So one of the things that was talked about last week when Devin Williams agreed to, was traded to the Yankees, was the fallout from that and what that meant to the Cardinals. Now here comes Kyle Tucker into the NL Central, joining the Chicago Cubs in a deal. So things start to move a little bit, and with a residual effect here in St. Louis.
Yeah, I mean, man, Bernie and we got to talk about the Devin Williams thing on Friday. The Tucker thing happened a little later in the day, or looks like it was happening kind of at the end of the show. But yeah, the Bernie, you made a great point that I want to get back to today, and I want the group of us to talk about it because, you know, we've all, I think, either said it, seen it, or heard it. People saying, "Wow, you know, Central Division's kind of up for grabs." And you made a great point about that, Bernie. Maybe it's not.
No.
You know, the Cubs have pushed their chips into the middle of the table.
And they're not done. They're not done either.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. They've gone out, though, and gotten one of the best hitters in Major League Baseball. The Brewers are brewing, right? They're taking something that they know they have depth in and that they're good at creating, and they're trading it for something they need in a starting pitcher. And they're not going backwards. And you pointed out, I think, very, very smartly, the Reds hired Terry Francona, not for PR, but to win more games. And the Pirates have pitching for days, man. They got so much pitching. They're talking about trading Jared Jones to get more offense. So I think it's fascinating because this informs, to me, all of our conversations about whether you should trade Eric Betty, whether or not you should trade Ryan Helsley if there's an offer that's out there. Because, you know, this idea that has been true forever, that the NL Central is just kind of meh, maybe it's not. And maybe it's not going to be, you know, well, if we just hang in there, you might be able to go. You either have to do something to get better or just accept the fate and move players now that you can get something for.
You know, the Cubs are going to probably, it's not definite, they're probably going to trade Cody Bellinger and pick up some stuff that they need or want. And listen, they'll be taking a chance on Pete Crow Armstrong in center field. Listen, gifted defensive player, yeah. And a terrific base stealer. I don't know how much he'll hit in his first full major league season, but he's a very talented guy. And they'll have Ian Happen left. They'll have Tucker and right. Suzuki moved to DH. People say, well, they traded Paredes in that deal to Houston. They don't have a third baseman now. Yeah, they do. It's just whether they want to use him this quick. A guy they drafted early a couple years ago, Matt Shaw, who just tore it up at AAA last year. See, the thing about the Cubs, if you look at you go to Roster Resource today and you look at who the Cubs have, you can see holes. You can say, well, what do you got? Okay, great. They got Tucker, but they don't have this. They don't have that. What they do have is a bunch of top 100, top 125 prospects in baseball. They've got more top 100 guys of any team in the majors right now. They have built up such a great prospect supply. They can tap into that and fill the holes they need to be better in 2025, which once again, for those that for some reason are still confused by what the Cardinals are trying to do for 2025 and what they're doing by bringing Heim Bloom and Rob Sfolio in. you can only benefit by having a player development system that just keeps you loaded with good prospects, because you can either put them on your team or trade them to someone else to get what you want and what you need. And that's what the Cubs are doing here. And they're positioned to strike again, maybe 3 times this offseason. And I don't want to take too long. I've got some thoughts on the Williams trade, but I want to turn it over to one of you guys.
Well, let me send it down to Matt, who spent some time in Milwaukee, and get your thoughts on just the NL Central as it stands right now.
Yeah, I've always been worried about the Cubs. Yeah, Craig Counsell made comments towards the end of last season saying that they need to build a roster that can go win 90 games. And he doesn't say that just speaking out of turn. He doesn't say that without having a feeling that he's going to be able to go along with the front office and make that happen. So I always thought that the Cubs had some moves up their sleeves like Bernie. I think they've got more moves coming. The Cubs, from the moment the season came to an end this past season, they automatically became the most dangerous team in the NL Central because of what they could potentially do. And they've started doing that with Tucker. I thought the Williams trade filled some holes for the Brewers. Not only do they get a middle of the rotation starter, they're able to stay out of the starting pitching market. They're able to get an infielder that can help them post Willy Adames and all, and they save payroll money, all doing all of that. Like, it's a classic Brewers move. To what you guys are saying, Terry Francona doesn't go to Cincinnati if he doesn't expect that he can win. I'm interested to see what happens with Pittsburgh. I was talking to some people at the winter meetings, and it just seems like a lot of people around the Pirates feel like this is going to be a huge missed opportunity for them because they've got so much talent there. They have so much pitching, but they're not going to do a thing to make it better. So I don't know. I'm not jumping on the Pirates bandwagon because I don't think that's an organization that's going to do the things that they need to do to be a good team. But those other 3 teams that we mentioned, man, there's a lot of positive things happening in all 3 of those spots.
Bernie, let me send it back to you. Milwaukee and Devin Williams, they part ways, and I'm sure they'll find a way to get right back to where they need to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I threw this out there when we were texting each other in a group text to discuss today's show. And I said, one thing that irritated me over the weekend, and it still does, as you can tell, is, because I've advocated trading Ryan Helsley. And of course, the Brewers traded their closer, Devin Williams. Those guys are equals, or very close to being equals, right? So they both would have a lot of value on the trade market. So the first thing I was getting from people was like, well, wait a minute. That's all that Milwaukee got for Devin Williams? Well, I mean, if that's all the Cardinals are going to get for Helsley, you can't trade Helsley. The Cardinals and the Brewers are in entirely different situations. The Brewers are concerned about their rotation. Brandon Woodruff may be back. He may not be back from the shoulder surgery. He'll try to come back. Will he be any good? Nobody knows. They're vulnerable in their rotation. They're worried about it. So they traded a walk-year closer, Devin Williams, who's very good, but there was a 0 chance of Milwaukee re-signing him after 2025. So they traded him in for a walk-year starting pitcher, Nestor Cortez, who was an all-star 2 years ago, is a good, solid pitcher. He's also a walk-year guy. Both of these guys will make an estimated 7.7 this year in the final year of their arbitration. The Brewers made a trade with the idea of filling a major need that will help them win the division again in 2025. The Cardinals, what they got for Williams is 100% irrelevant to any kind of trade the Cardinals would make if they sent Ryan Helsley to someone. Because what are the Cardinals all about in 2025? Altogether class, youth, kids, developing youngsters, developing a better farm system. The Cardinals would not trade Ryan Helsley for a walk-year starting pitcher. They would, however, trade him for a package, a little bundle, whatever, of young talent that fits into where they are and what they want to do as a team over the next couple years. I don't know why this is so difficult for people to understand. The Brewers and the Cardinals have different objectives in 2025, and the Brewers made a trade that fits their objective. The Cardinals wouldn't make a trade for a walk-year starting pitcher. So why are so many people saying, well, they can't trade Helsley now? Why not? And by the way, for the record, I'm not in favor of trading Helsley just to trade Helsley. I didn't think I needed to say that. It's if they get a really, you know,
wait, you don't just want to give him away?
Yeah, you know, but they need if they have something that they really like on the table from another team, you have to trade them. You're wasting everyone's time if you don't. You're not really fulfilling the objective that you have, your stated objective for 2025. Sorry.
Yeah, you could hang on to him until the deadline when everybody needs a reliever, Kevin.
Sure.
The risk, of course, you run is that he's going to get hurt.
Yeah, I think Bernie, I think we're all on the same page. And, you know, like if the deal that you think is good enough is there, make it now. But if it's not, you wait. I mean, I'd say it's all super reasonable, right? There are a lot of relievers on the free agent market. None of them are as good as Ryan Helsley. I mean, Carlos Estevez had a great year, but he's not exactly been that consistent over time. Jeff Hoffman is very talented and has had 2 massive years, but he's not a closer, or at least he hasn't proven that he's a closer. He probably can. I don't think there's any question about it. But the point is, yeah, okay, if you're being lowballed, or if there isn't anybody that's willing to trade a good prospect for Helsley, then don't do it. I mean, we're all on the same page there. I don't think anybody's like, get him out of here. We got to make a move. But I will say they should be comfortable in figuring out, or at least learning how to figure out, to do what Milwaukee did again, kind of using that Brewers example we keep bringing up with Garland's point. They had a guy in Trevor McGill. Nobody really heard much about him before last year. And here he comes. He's like 30 and he throws 100. And, you know, it's okay if like Ryan Fernandez has to close, or if Jojo Romero gets that chance, or maybe you find someone else, or sign someone who's inexpensive and give him that chance. There's all kinds of options there. It shouldn't just be as simple as, well, if we don't have Helsley, we don't have a closer.
This is the Gashouse Gang. Gashouse Gang on KMOX is sponsored by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer. Bernie, tell us about our sponsor.
I'm proud to represent Saliga Heating and Cooling. We've been a Saliga family here at the Miklasz home for 16 years, and we've gotten that long line of St. Louis families, generations of them since 1927, that have been calling Saliga Heating and Cooling, which is an independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer. They do great work. We know, because we've called them. We've had to call them. We've wanted to call them. We needed to call them many, many times through the years. And they've always taken great care of us, just like they've taken great care of every other St. Louis family. Why do you think they're still going strong after opening the doors down there on Gravois? Same building since 1927. That's a lot of credibility. That's a lot of trustworthiness that they've accumulated, because you still wouldn't be going strong in 2024 after you opened for the first time in 1927. People trust them, admire them, respect them, and I can vouch for all that stuff. They've always looked for ways to save us money. So listen, financing options are available, subject to credit approval. They have that outstanding American Standard equipment. There's all kinds of incentives. You can check out some other things. They have all services. The best thing you should do is just go online and look at the Priority Club, a maintenance program that's really worth the money. We do that as well at home here at the Miklasz house. Go to SaligaHeatingCooling.com, SaligaHeatingCooling.com. You'll find the phone number there.
That's Bernie Miklasz with Kevin Wheeler, Matt Pauley. I'm Tom Ackerman. If Ryan Helsley is not traded before Christmas, I'd be willing to bet that Steven Matz would have a better chance of being traded. He could start. He could come out of the bullpen for you. He's of value. And then the other name, Matt, is Nolan Arenado, and things are starting to pick up a little bit. The Athletic was the first to report, I do believe, that the Astros talks were intensifying with the Cardinals on the Arenado front. How did you evaluate that?
Yeah, I think Arenado gets traded sooner than later. I would be pretty surprised if he's still a Cardinal come New Year's Day. I think there's a good chance it happens even before Christmas Day. Like you said, this is starting to heat up. I'm sure the Cardinals would like to have multiple offers that they're comfortable with. They're able to go to Nolan, present him with the different options, because he has to waive the no trade clause. So if they can get 2 or 3 teams that they're comfortable with what they would get back, and just the financial considerations that go along with it, or look, if they get an offer from Houston and they know that he's willing to go to Houston. There was that report at one point about the teams that Nolan was willing to go to, but we keep seeing teams that are not on that list be mentioned. So I don't totally know what that means, but he's a fit. He absolutely is a fit in Houston. We joked about this the other day on Total Information AM, Tom, that there's a scenario where Arenado and Goldschmidt are each in Houston, and those two guys are together on the infield once again. I think it'd be kind of funny if that ends up happening. Cardinals fans won't think it's happy if they both have big bounce back seasons, but that's neither here nor there. Houston makes a lot of sense, though, for a lot of all the teams when we're talking about fit. I think Houston probably is the one where he fits the most, both from a team perspective and from a home ballpark perspective.
I actually think it does make sense, and I think he would probably want to go to a contender, and Houston doesn't seem too bad of a place. Bernie, if it is Arenado and Goldschmidt, let's say, at the corners, and they end up going crazy, I mean, none of us are going to say, fans may claim, they should have kept him. No, I mean, they're not going to. I mean, they're obviously going in this direction.
Yeah, I don't. You know, with all due respect, I don't think we'll see Goldie if the Astros make the deal for Arenado. I don't think we'd see Goldie at first base because when the Cubs got Isaac Paredes from the Cubs and the Tucker deal, he first of all he's a third baseman. But I went back and read this to make sure. The Astros finished second last summer at the deadline in the trade bidding for Paredes. And the Astros' plan at that time was to play him at first base.
That's right. Yep.
And they were very comfortable with that. So what they'll do if they acquire Arenado, they'll clearly play him at third because he's got his best defensive value at third base. They were already prepared to play Paredes at first base last season, so they would move him there this season. And listen, if Arenado, who has excellent contact skills, he doesn't strike out much. He doesn't swing and miss all that much. He doesn't chase all that much. If he can just, and I do believe at age 34 next season, he can do this because he tinkers with his swing way too much. And for a while, he was like, well, I'm going to try to start to hit the ball to all fields and all this stuff. He got in his own head. If he can increase his pulled fly ball line drive right to left field to get back to what he's always done, because that percentage has been dropping because, in my opinion, changes he's made in his plate approach. If he can start to pull the ball again more regularly and get the ball in the air more regularly, the Crawford boxes are 315 feet away from home plate down the left field line. If Arenado's smart enough to adjust his swing again, he would hit a lot more home runs. You know, people were throwing StatCast at me, say, well, it only projected him. He would have hit 17 home runs for the Astros last year in that ballpark. No. Like Tony La Russa once explained to me, he said, really good hitters are like good golfers. Every course is different, and you got to play the course. You can't take the same approach to every course. They're all different. And he would talk about how the Astros hitters in that ballpark, they knew how to play that field. They knew how to play that golf course. So guys who normally wouldn't pull as much, all of a sudden they're looking for something they can pull. Hello, Crawford boxes, bomb after bomb after bomb after bomb. Arenado could get into the swing of that, no pun intended. And I think he would do very well there. And to what you all were saying, why wouldn't he want to go? They've made the playoffs 9 of the last 10 years, 8 years in a row. Mm-hmm. And yeah, they've lost some talent, but they still have a lot of talent there. And the Western Division and the AL is really not all that intimidating. They can win the division title again this coming season, especially if they have him helping them clean up the defense and, you know, get that pull shot back in his swing.
Yeah, he's got to stop hitting the ball on the ground. He had the highest ground ball rate of his career. I think maybe he had the same thing in 2018, but like he had the lowest fly ball rate of his career last year and the second highest ground ball rate. Hit the ball in the air, especially with the Crawford boxes. And you know, again, that's not even counting hitting it harder or barreling the ball more or doing any of those things where you're actually improving bat speed or whatever. That's just take what you have now and hit fewer ground balls and hit the ball in the air more, and you're more productive. And he replaces a lot of the other things that Bregman gives the Astros, like the top end defense, right? So you're getting an upgrade there. I mean, Bregman's good, but he's not as good as Arenado. And you look at that team, it would be weird to me if he didn't want to go there. You have Yordan Alvarez and Jose, and you have Altuve and Pena, and Yainer Diaz is a cleanup hitting catcher. I mean, like Nolan in that lineup probably hit sixth, right? I mean, if he's going to go hit at best fifth, because Paredes and Arenado, one of them would hit fifth or sixth. When you look at the way their lineup is set up, with Altuve and Pena and Alvarez and Diaz as the top 4. It's a great lineup if you're looking at those guys hitting 6th. One of those guys hitting 6th, you're pretty good. They have pitching. They're talking about maybe listening on Valdez, but that's a big maybe. And even if they move him, they have all kinds of other pitchers too. I think you're right, Bernie. It'd be weird to me if he didn't want to go there, if that was presented to him.
And I had Astros fans, and they were watching my video yesterday because I did a big thing about this, why he would be a good fit for Houston. And Kevin, and you and I talked about this the other day. Listen, is Alex Bregman a better player than Nolan Arenado? Well, of course he is.
Yeah.
But that's not the end of the story. Because even though he's 3 years younger, Alex Bregman is already starting to show signs of decline. I mean, some of his tracking numbers have gone down year by year the last 3 years. He turned down 6 years, $156 million from the Astros. He wants 7 years, $200 million. The point is this: you limit your liability with Arenado if you're the Astros, because look, the Rockies are paying $10 million off his salary, so that brings it down to $64 million the next 2 years. And $64 million for the 3 years. If the Cardinals chip in $10 million, now it's down to $54 million. If the Cardinals hypothetically chip in $15 million, they would get Arenado 3 years at $47 million. That's a perfectly fine contract.
So they'd be getting him for the price of a 4th or 5th starting pitcher.
Yeah, and the thing of it is, like, you're only, even if that contract doesn't age well, you're not stuck for 6 or 7 years. You're stuck with 3 years. And I think he'd get a couple decent seasons out of it at least. Yeah. With Bregman, your long-term liability makes that potentially a very onerous contract. So the Astros would save, even if there's nothing, based on the offer they made Bregman, you didn't take it, but if he would have accepted it, and based on, even if the Cardinals don't throw in any money, the Astros would save $92 million. What they would pay Arenado compared to what they were prepared to offer Bregman. You got to look at it in those terms. It's not about who's going to be better in 2025. It's about the contract and how you're going to live with it. In Bregman's case, for a pretty long time.
The Gashouse gang on KMOX, Matt Pauley, Kevin Wheeler, Bernie Miklasz, Tom Ackerman. Matt, let's continue the Arenado conversation. And his defense is elite, as Kevin and Bernie both pointed out. I mean, it is. And it does bring value to this trade. What do you guys think? And I'll start with Matt, as a reasonable return for Nolan Arenado.
Well, it continues to be connected to how much money that you're picking up versus what they're picking up. If a team goes and carries most of the salary, I think that's more of a lottery ticket type situation, a low-level prospect that's got a high ceiling, but there's a gamble on if the Cardinals pick up a lot of money, though. And I think specifically the Astros, they've got a track record of this, of giving up a little bit more when teams are willing to take on a fair amount of money. So it's hard for me to sit here and assess. It's probably not going to be a top 100 prospect no matter what. Is it going to be somebody who's just outside? Is it going to be somebody who's, an organization's number 25 or number 20 prospect? I think that's what we're probably talking about right now. This is more about getting out from under the salary, and it's more about creating the opportunities for other players for the Cardinals. What you get back for him, I think, is somewhat secondary.
Kevin, what do you think?
I mean, if you guys want to do a fun exercise, go to MLB Pipeline and look at the Astros top 30 prospects, and they're just expected to be none of those guys. No, I'm only being a smartass. It could be one of those guys. Let's keep in mind, Houston's system is pretty thin. They don't have a lot to offer. So if you're getting outside, say, their top 5, 6, 7 guys, they're not going to be considered big names. It doesn't mean there aren't players that aren't good. Maybe bringing in guys like Paredes and Arenado, hypothetically in this situation, blocks a guy like Zach DeCenzo, who's near the major leagues, and he's 24 years old, soon to be 25, and missed a bunch of last year. I think he only played 90 games the year before that. I think he's played 140 games the last 2 years. So like somebody like that may be getting blocked, especially since they just got Cam Smith from the Cubs, who's now their top corner infield prospect because he's their number 1 prospect overall. Like that's your best hope. Your best hope is someone that has kind of fallen behind other guys that they feel they have the depth to say, all right, maybe we don't want to take a 40-man roster spot with this guy and he could help you. But it's not going to be a top prospect. It's just not, unless you're eating way more of this money than we're discussing.
Which is kind of Chaim Bloom's specialty, Bernie. I mean, I'm kind of glad that Chaim is on the case here and Rob Cerfolio and crew, because Chaim has been able to mine some diamonds in the rough, shall we say.
Yeah, I don't expect much of all if this thing goes through. And will it go through? Who knows? Because it depends on what the Cardinals are willing to give up financially as far as throwing money to Houston. But also, if they do make a trade, I do think the Chaim Bloom eye and his ability to spot those hidden gems, or understanding that, hey, there's a chance that if you get this prospect that they really like, who may be an A-ball right now, there's an excellent chance that nothing will ever come of it. But there's also a chance, maybe a long shot chance, somewhat of a long shot chance, that he'll turn into something where you're like, well, that's why we wanted him. See, we thought he could do this. So I trust Chaim Bloom to make those kind of judgments. The one thing I want to throw out at you guys, and I don't want to just let me put this out there. Why wouldn't it, let's say they work out a deal? Why would Arenado reject it? The only thing I can think of is that even though, despite his having the Angels on the list, and if that's true, his acceptable destination list, then Arenado's wasting everybody's time, because it's really not about winning. Not if you have the Angels on the list. But I'm thinking the only way maybe he would veto it is if he sees the Astros and he sees some good players there, but he also knows the farm system's pretty barren. He also knows they don't have as much talent as they did. He knows, Seattle's pretty good. The Texas Rangers are reloading, blah, blah, blah. Maybe he sees the Astros as another potential St. Louis situation where he thought, oh, I'm going to be in the playoffs every year there. And then all of a sudden he's not. I mean, other than that, why would he turn it down?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. That's a good point.
Could very well be. When you look at replenishing this system, if I were to ask the question, what do the Cardinals need most? You'd say everything. Wouldn't you, Matt? I mean, they need a little bit of everything. Of course, they're trying to redevelop the system at the same time as they acquire the talent to work in said system, where they're pouring resources into technology, instruction, and that kind of thing. But when you kind of take a step back and look at the Cardinals organization, which prospects do stand out to you at the moment, and where do they possibly need the most?
Well, for me, the most exciting person is Quinn Matthews, and he's going to be here sooner than later. He's going to be in the Cardinals rotation probably at some point this year. Just to see what he did last year, the way he was able to elevate so quickly through all four levels. Yeah, he was a guy who was a high level college from an academic standpoint. He never was able to just focus on baseball. Now he's been focusing just on baseball since becoming a pro. I think he's going to be that much better. So that's the guy that I'm most interested in. I know we talk a lot about JJ Weatherholt. It's going to be fun to see what happens with him. We were actually debating a little bit, and I was surprised. There was two debate questions, just kind of talking with people, that I was surprised were questions. The two questions were, not to hijack this, but since you brought it up, the two questions were, does Thomas Saggese for sure make the roster, opening day roster? And a lot of people thought that he was going to be earmarked back for AAA so he could play every day. And the other was, will JJ Weatherholt get time in big league spring training and appear in some big league spring training games? And for me, that's an obvious yes.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people who thought that no, he's going to be a minor league camp guy. So it was just interesting hearing other people and their takes on those things. But to answer your question, Tom, it's Quinn Matthews.
Yeah, and Kevin, the things have changed in baseball where you're not spending 5 years in the minor leagues anymore. These guys are going to rock it up quickly, and you have to have everything in place to accommodate that.
I mean, JJ Weatherholt's 22, right? He's not a 19-year-old out of high school. He's a 22-year-old top 10 draft pick. Like, that guy should be in big league camp. And if he's not, I have serious concerns about what we're doing here. It doesn't mean he's got to make the team. I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying, if he's not in major league spring training, I would be shocked, given his aptitude, given what he showed in the short amount of time that he did play as a pro last year. I mean, my God, he only had 29 games, but, guy hit 300 with a little pop and walked more than he struck out. I mean, he's an advanced player, an advanced top-end college player. There's no reason for him to be just going straight to minor league camp. As for the Sajasi thing, since we're going into the prospects thing, if he's in the minor leagues, I don't know what to tell you, man. He's got nothing left to do in the minor leagues. He has nothing left to do in the minor leagues. He has played now what? I mean, like 200 AAA games or something like that. I mean, like, I don't understand. So he played 125 games at AAA this past season, and then top that off with he had 13 the year before. So it's not really as much as I'm saying, but this guy's played a full season of AAA. He's played multiple seasons at AA. I don't think there's anything left for him to learn at AAA. Get him into the big leagues, get him playing, get him opportunities to face big league hitters. And as far as what they need, I said this before, I'll repeat it. Power. You need power arms and power bats. Yeah, a lot of great catching. They're loaded with catching. They've got 4 guys, including the 2 in the major leagues, and I'm not even counting Contreras. They've got 4 legit catchers. Crooks is a real prospect. Bernal is a real prospect, and you're really good there. I think they're pretty solid in the infield, just generally speaking, with Weatherholt and with Sajasi still there at the top of the rankings. But yeah, if I'm looking at anything, it's power bats and power arms, because that always plays. And whether it's outfield, first base, third base, don't really care. Power bats and power arms.
Yeah, I think that's why it's even more important that they find a way to move Arenado this winter, even if, again, the return's not going to be great, because I don't expect it. Maybe I'll be plenty surprised. Because JJ Weatherholt's going to be knocking on the door, the major league door at some point in 2025. That's why you need Arenado cleared out of here, and John Mozeliak clearly wants to give Nolan Gorman a full run at third base. So I don't look at third base as anything but Nolan Gorman there in 2025.
Yep.
Oh, there'll be players filling in, but he will be the primary third baseman. So when Weatherholt comes up, if he warrants a call up, listen, you got Mason Wynn. The Cardinals, a lot of people think Weatherholt could play second base, which he could. Well, second base will be open. And then the situation is Weatherholt could play third base down the road if you need him. But without getting Arenado out of there, it means less than a full opportunity for Gorman. It means less than a full opportunity for Sajasi.
Yep.
It means maybe you don't call up Weatherholt when a call up is warranted. So Arenado could affect 3 other players if he's still here in 2025. I put Brendan Donovan in a totally different category. His value is moving around.
Yeah.
It's not that, he could be their third base. No. His value is in being able to play multiple positions, 4 or 5 positions, and play them all solidly at worst and really good at a couple of them. So just throw Brendan Donovan out of locking him into a position. That's not what he's all about. That's why he won the Gold Glove for being a super utility defender. That's value, man. That's what he's got to stay in that role, especially with Edman gone.
Very true. I'm very curious. And by the way, the 5th pick in the draft is going to get rocketed up very quickly.
Yeah.
Whoever that is here in 2025.
Man, it's going to be so fun to see.
Isn't that incredible? I mean, the first time that's ever happened, that is a huge, huge deal. Kevin, I agree with you on power. Specifically for me, outfield power. Chase Davis, I mean, his big swing, which I like, but the numbers right now and the strikeouts are going to be there too. It's going to be a challenge. That to me is the big thing. Where's the power in the outfield? I mean, obviously Jordan Walker, untapped power.
You're hoping you're going to get that, right?
But other than that, I mean, I'm just, that's the one that I'm kind of harping on. This is the Gashouse gang. It is KMOX. It is Kevin Wheeler. He is on the DGS. It's Matt Pauley. He's on Sports Open Line. He's going to be on Sports Open Line tonight live from the Jack Buck Awards as we broadcast that live tonight at 8 o'clock. We're going to have a heck of a night tonight. I can't wait for that. And Bernie Miklasz, who is the host of The Bernie Show, a must subscribe on YouTube, and also brought us our proud sponsor, Saliga Heating and Cooling. Bernie.
They're the best. They've been serving great St. Louis families, generations of them since 1927. In fact, I mentioned this before, but Saliga Heating and Cooling, they're still in the same building that they opened in 1927 down there in South City on Gravois. And we've been with them for 15, 16 years. We love everything about them. We're very loyal, to say the least, because we've seen not only this independent American standard heating and air conditioning dealers pass the test of time. You're not thriving. almost 100 years later, unless you're really, really outstanding at what you do. But we have found them to be 100% trustworthy, credible. Everything that they tell us, they've saved us money where they could have easily sold us an expensive piece of equipment. They found a different type of solution, told us to hold off on getting that new boiler, things like that. I mean, they're really, really upstanding in terms of their integrity. And that's a big deal. That's always a big deal when it comes to heating and cooling and who can I trust? So who should I call? So without a doubt, you should call Saliga Heating and Cooling and look into becoming a member of the Priority Club, which is a maintenance program. And we're members of the maintenance program. It gives you peace of mind. Before it gets really cold, your heating's working great. Before it gets really, really hot, your AC's blowing cold and looking good, feeling good. They can save you money long-term just by you being in the maintenance program because they can catch little problems if there are any before they become expensive problems. So again, you also have that American Standard equipment going for you as well. One more thing, financing options are available subject to credit approval. Call 314-481-7333 or go online to get all the services and the phone number at SaligaHeatingandCooling.com, SaligaHeatingandCooling.com. Thank you.
Thank you. Great sponsor. Appreciate it very much. And Matt, before we go, I mentioned the winter meetings last week in Dallas. Anything still lingering with you? Any nuggets maybe that you wanted to throw out there that were hanging with you through the weekend?
Yeah, I mentioned this to Bernie when we did our Sports Open Line hit last week, but I don't think I've talked about it on this show. I was talking with somebody, and there was just sheer exuberance about the people that they had been talking to and offering jobs inside the organization. And I would suspect that we'll get a press release from the Cardinals at some point in the next few weeks. But I got the sense that some deals are done. So once they hired the directors, the next thing that they needed to hire were the different coordinators for the minor league system. And then after that, there were some instructors and things like that. But I think they were very, John Mozeliak said a few times when we were there that they were very close on hiring some of the coordinators. I don't know the names. I don't know any of the details, but I can tell you the people in the organization that I talked to, they were so incredibly excited about the people that had agreed to hop on and join the organization. And to me, that's really, really good news.
Gosh, I love it. I mean, that is just music to my ears. Get the people from other teams that have had success, copy them, steal them, take them, and bring them into the Cardinals organization. I mean, that's what you got to do. Kevin, we are going to get into that and more tomorrow, and we're going to be joined by a third member of our crew, a guest on the Gashouse Gang, none other than Post-Dispatch beat writer Derek Gould.
Nice.
Is going to be along with us. You guys have a fun little podcast you've done together.
Yeah, I mean, I like to join him on his own podcast, the best podcast in baseball, anytime we can. And we always go long. Imagine that.
So I'm just going to sit back and let you guys
always
go figure.
No, we'll try to rein it in. I'm looking forward to it. There's a lot to get into with the team. And I think this is something that, like, this philosophy of basically making a call, right? What are you? Because if you're going to live in free agency, as we've talked about, you need to live at the top end, not in the bottom half of the middle. And if you're not going to live in free agency, then you got to do this. You got to commit to a path and give guys opportunities. And if it means in a given year that you're not necessarily what you always want to sell yourself to be, fine. Because long-term, it's going to put you where you need to be. Like, that's the idea. And I'll be really curious to see kind of what's next. Because, they've got to get to a place where when they do something big to augment them, not 10, 12 different middling moves, because those are the ones that end up kind of dragging you down, as we've seen.
That's a good teaser for tomorrow. We are going to discuss that and more with Derek. Kevin Wheeler and I will be with you at noon right here on all your social media channels. YouTube for sure. You can subscribe to The Bernie Show, subscribe to KMOX Sports. We replay on KMOX, not tonight because of the Jack Buck Awards, but we're always in podcast form. We're all over the place. We're now on Apple Podcasts, just as everybody was hoping for. So we are here, the Gashouse Gang, with Kevin, Bernie, Matt. I'm Tom. Thank you to Drew Young, our producer, to Wilson Trong as well. We will see you tomorrow.